What's going on, resellers? And this is not just eBay resellers that I want to talk to. This is anybody who resells anything. I honestly, I wasn't planning on making a video tonight, and I've got like notes, lots of notes, so I'm going to be stopping and starting this video. I wanted to have just a relaxing Thursday evening. My name is Jeff. If you watched 21 Jump Street, my name is Jeff. Yeah, there's such a funny story behind that. Have you guys been following what's been going on with the Etsy community in any capacity? And if you haven't, this is what this video is about. If you think that as an eBay reseller that you live on an island, an eBay island, and nothing else pertains to you about in the reselling community in other platforms, tune out now. But if you think it's all connected and what goes on in other e-commerce websites can actually have an impact on eBay, stay tuned, because there are some interesting things going on. There's a grassroots movement going on with Etsy, and there are a lot of parallels that the problems that they're having, we are seeing those exact same problems in the eBay community as well. And tomorrow is an important day because basically they are using a hashtag Keep Etsy Human, where they are pleading for Etsy sellers to post opinions and experiences, and they're trying to make change on that platform. And I'm going to go into some of the complaints and some of the issues that they are having. And as a reseller, as a long time reseller of over 10 years, 8 years full time, I can relate to a lot of these issues. So last week I came across this video. I don't even know how I did. I'll be posting that video from, I don't have that person's name written down, but it'll be the video that kind of sent me down this rabbit hole. And some of the issues that Etsy is having right now, and some of these are very similar and very relatable for any eBay reseller, and then some of them are site specific for people that, artisan made products. But there's no denying that a lot of the issues that they are having is relatable upon, whether you're on Etsy, eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, all of these things. So some of the things that they are, wanting to get addressed in the Etsy platform is requiring 24-hour response rate, even on holidays and weekends, to retain star seller status. Star seller status. So that would kind of be relatable to top rated seller. I don't know about you guys, but I have a life outside of eBay. And, I don't want to work on holidays and weekends, right? I don't want to be required to, take out my time out of my personal life to handle things. Yes, we are a customer-based niche, genre, job, I guess, whatever you want to call it. But that's just one. Okay, the second one is issuing refunds when items are not received, even when the tracking shows that it's been received. Now, I know eBay is excellent. Anytime somebody opens a case and the item is shown as received and they have not received it, and they've indicated that they've not received it by opening a case, eBay will close that. I mean, I've never seen them not close it. Now, I'm familiar with the experience that if a buyer has never opened an item not received where the item shows received as the tracking, if they let eBay know that, a lot of the times eBay will out of their pocket refund the buyer the money and allow the seller to keep the money, because they want that buyer to have a positive experience, so they keep buying on the platform. So I oftentimes will let the buyer know that. Now, I don't know whether or not they've acted upon that knowledge, but I do like to offer that. But eBay has been excellent about that. Obviously, Etsy is not as excellent about that as well. So I'm just educating you on some of the issues that they are having. And if you don't feel sympathetic for other resellers, I don't know. I personally feel that's wrong, because I feel like we are all in this boat together. Because there's going to come a time where we're having issues and we want other platforms, other resellers who use other platforms to assist us in shedding light in this, in a grassroots type environment. Payment reserve system. Now this is messed up. And from what I'm understanding is that they hold X amount of funds, anywhere from 75% to 30% of their funds for an X amount of time. There's no time frame. It seems to when they release their funds, at least no standard time frame. I know that if eBay held, so basically put yourself in their situation. If you had $1,000 in sales and eBay was holding 75% of our funds for a non-disclosed amount of time, that would be devastating. Kudos for eBay for not doing that, but shame on Etsy if they are, if this is what is happening. This is mess. And then let me just see here. What is that right here? Something about subjective wording. Sorry, that's my fault for not being able to read my own writing. But there are a lot of parallels in the reselling community. Okay, I paused the video to go back and rewatch the video to find out what my notes were all about. So basically it has to do with the subjective wording that is in the terms of contract. Now, this sounds eerily familiar as an eBay reseller, because if you don't already know, Josh Galt, and I'll include his post that he did recently, kind of talking about the terms of agreement and whether or not cross-listing is actually allowed via eBay. I know. It sounds crazy. It sounds nuts because everybody does it, but if you read the terms of if you read the terms of agreement, it almost sounds like cross-listing is something that is not allowed. Now, whether it is, whether it isn't, that's going to be hopefully resolved, but it's the ambiguous wording of contracts and agreements that have massive implications for resellers, which it should be more black and white. It should not be in this gray area. And it's frustrating because we build our businesses on these online platforms for the long term. But wording and policy changes can have massive impacts on our business on like almost instantaneously, right? So I just feel like the subjective wording needs to, it needs to stop, especially when people's livelihoods and people's families rely so heavily on this income. Another item or concern that the Etsy movement is having is that the removal of items with no explanation. How many of you, as an eBay reseller, have gotten an email in the middle of the night that was obviously computer generated? Basically, anything that you receive after midnight or 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is almost always going to be something that's computer generated. And it's like, we've taken down this said item because it violated something. It violated something. Now, whether or not it has a negative impact on your account as in the form of a defect or whether it doesn't, it will state it in the listing. But that's not the issue. The issue is, why are these things being taken down? Literally just today, James over at My Boring Reseller Life, I will link to that video as well. He talks about something that just happened to him today. It's happened to me numerous times. And it's like one of those things where we don't know oftentimes what we're allowed to list and what we're not allowed to list. And this actually leads into kind of like a bigger issue with Veros and how Veros are increasing lately. And it's like, we're the ones being published, but there's no help from the e-commerce platform at the point of listing to help us identify issues before it becomes an issue. I'm going to quickly give an example of what happened to me and how there is such an easy workaround. This has not only happened to me, it actually exact same thing happened to Josh Galt as well. You cannot use the word bomber in your listing because it's a trademarked word. I didn't know that. I don't know every single listing out there that is trademarked. There's no way I could know. But what eBay can do and how they can help how they can help their sellers out is, as soon as the first Vero is levied upon any reseller out there on any trademarked word, once that happens, they could just go in, they could add a few keystrokes of code, and so basically anybody who's going to relist something and they have the word bomber in their title and their description, a little pop-up can come up and say, hey, are you sure you want to use that word? Are you an authorized reseller? How hard would that be? How hard would that be, eBay? And it would help protect the sellers from words that they don't know that they're not allowed to use. It would help eBay in the man hours that resellers take up in contacting customer support. It would literally save you money, eBay. The few keystrokes that you do to add that code to your system, every time you get a Vero notice, it would also help in legality issues. So, for example, this woman from Etsy was talking about the word amber, and I don't know anything about this, but what I'm gathering is that if they use the word amber in their listing, their items are removed with no explanation. I can totally relate as an eBay reseller. It's gotten to the point where, like, for example, I've got 3 items right here. I've got this hand cream. I've got this. It's a pet soothing cream, like a foam for irritated skin. That and then I got this eye skin, basically like laptop kind of case. It's very well made. But these are the issues. I don't know if I'm allowed to list these things, right? All of these things, I don't see any of them on the Vero list. I don't see any of them. I don't know. It's getting to the point where I'm literally afraid to list things on eBay because of, past Veros that I have gotten that were completely out of left field. And it's becoming a concern. It's like, we don't know. Like, we're infants and we don't know that we're not allowed to touch the hot stove. And then we touch it and then we get burned and then we know. But it's like we need help from these platforms, and we need more transparency as to what we're allowed to list, what we're not allowed to list, and not have these significant ramifications incur when we do list these things innocently. Like if if we're told that we're not allowed to list something and then we do it again, that is at the point where punishment should be dealt out, defects should be dealt out on accounts. It shouldn't be a first time offense, because there's absolutely no way any single reseller out there is going to know every single thing out there that we're not allowed to sell. Another defect or kind of like issue along those lines is, and I don't know all the specifications about it, but Josh had listed something and had the word owl in his description or whatnot, and he ended up getting a Vero over that. Like, I had literally called in and spoke to the eBay Vero verification department, and I asked them, is there any reason that I would get a Vero over using the word owl? And they were like, no, that's a noun. That's not a trademark word. But yet, other people have experiences, and this happens all the time. You call into eBay and you hear one thing, and then you almost start to get paranoid. You almost, like for me, I need to hear it from 2 to 3 different customer service representatives before I literally even will consider it to be true. And even that is not the case. For example, I have been told on numerous occasions that if you get a Vero and you do not have another Vero on your account for 6 months, then that original Vero drops off. Meaning, you kind of have a clean slate. So the way the rules around the Veros work, to my understanding, and this is all hearsay, because again, you hear so many different things, and this is the problem, is like not having transparency, not having any kind of like knowing. It's like playing a football game where sometimes you get 6 points for a touchdown and sometimes you get 3, sometimes you get 9, but you don't know. So how can you game plan around that? So the rules around the Vero, from what I've understood, is like if you have no Veros and you get a Vero, it's kind of like a warning. And you can get a couple of those warnings, anywhere from 2 to 4, before you kind of get a 3-day suspension. So what I was told by multiple customer service representatives in the Vero department, not your normal kind of like frontline customer service reps, but the department, is if you get one Vero and then you get another one and then you get another one, you could potentially get a 3-day suspension. But if you get one Vero and then you don't have a Vero for 6 months, then that first Vero is kind of wiped clean. Now, I've also heard that it never goes away, ever. Now, think about that for a minute. If it was to never go away, then the longer that you sell on eBay or any platform in general, the greater the likelihood that you're going to get a Vero after Vero after Vero, which is going to result into a suspension, into a warning, into a suspension, into a complete, removal of your account, greatly increases. So when I was told that if you kind of like don't get any other Veros for 6 months and you kind of go back to a clean slate, that kind of makes sense. But just the other day, when I heard about Josh's owl Vero, I wanted some clarification because I had some owl kind of like figurines and whatnot. And if owl is a trademarked word, then I want to be compliant. Like, I'm literally calling in to try to find out what's what so I can be compliant. And I'm getting, I'm being told that there's owl is a noun and that you can't get a Vero for that. But then he's telling me that he got a Vero for that. So I don't know the rules. And it's difficult to kind of like build a business around not knowing the rules. So to recap, on August 25th, this particular reseller of Etsy was basically having a call to action for Etsy resellers to share their posts, opinions, and then have the hashtag Keep Etsy Human. And I just felt, as a reseller myself, that it was important to support them in that movement, because the core challenges that they are having over there, I can't help but relate to those as an eBay reseller. For example, challenges that are delayed to payments. Like, if my payments were being delayed, this just happened to Commonwealth. On Monday, he posted a video and he was saying, commonwealthpicker.com, I will link to that video. It seems like there's a convergence of things that are happening in the reseller community that I believe that we do need to galvanize and support each other and demand some sort of black and white rules of engagement. Just so we know. And it's actually more than that. It's not just black and white. It's just like, well, let me just, there's so much going on right now. Like, yeah, so let me just talk about these core kind of like things that we can relate to, and then I'll wrap it up. And then, yeah, we'll see what happens. So on Monday, Commonwealth Picker, who's one of the larger eBay resellers, he has a couple accounts. He does podcasts. He's got over 100,000 followers on one. He's got, 40 or 50,000 on the other channel. And at some point, his account was being reviewed. His payments were on hold. He had thousands of dollars that were just not being released. And he was never told why and what the resolution was. It was like, we're basically holding your money, we're checking your account, and deal with it in the meantime, and we'll let you know when we figure it out. And then they figured out that whatever the issue was a non-issue, released his payments, and that's that. Like, that's not acceptable. It's absolutely not acceptable. Like, if somebody came to you, and just think about this from your perspectives. If somebody came to you, if eBay came to you and said, we're holding your funds for an undisclosed amount of time because there's something going on with your account that we need to let out, how would that affect you? If it wouldn't affect you, great. That means you are in awesome financial monetary situation that you don't need to rely on these funds, but there are people out there that do. There are people out there who rely on their funds because we are in a crappy economic time and money is tight. And I feel like as resellers, we don't have a voice when it comes to these kinds of situations. Like, we're seeing these things more and more, and we're not just seeing them like Kevin is a massive reseller in the eBay community. If it can happen to him, believe me, it can happen to you. It can happen to me. It can happen to anybody. Deactivation of accounts. We've seen that happen. Now, whether or not we're told the whole story by people who go on YouTube and talk about how their accounts were deactivated or not, it's still a concern. Buyer disputes. That's an issue. Listing removals. that is an issue. Like having just your items, your listings taken down without any kind of like explanation as to why they're taken down, and then and why that explanation can be so important is so we know not to do it again. We know not to list those same items again. Or we can dispute that item was valid or was not counterfeit. Or yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating. It feels like so many of these things just hit so close to home to me. And I just wanted to raise awareness to kind of like something that's going on, because I didn't know anything about what was going on over at Etsy. And I just feel like if I don't know, then so many of you guys don't know, because we all live in our reselling e-commerce islands. And we don't look at what's going on in other platforms, because I have I don't make artisan type products that I sell on Etsy, but that doesn't make it not relevant to what I do. And I'm sure there's tons of things that I missed, but you get the point. You're gonna see the links in the description. You're gonna see everything that I've talked about. The Etsy link, the Josh link, the Commonwealth Picker link. I'll also link to my Boring Resellers link, his video today where he talks about, having a listing removed, and even though it doesn't affect your account, I think when things don't affect our accounts, like when we don't get a defect, we don't take it seriously. We're like, oh, okay, it doesn't affect it, no worries. But these things add up. We took the time to buy something, and then it's being removed without us being told why. We spent the money on that product, but yet we don't know what else. We don't know the reason, and so we don't know how to avoid buying and sourcing other products of the same similar nature in the future. So that would cost us money. So this is just, the whole point of this video is to raise awareness and how it feels like there's so many things that are happening right now in the reselling community that I just want to support other resellers. So let me know what you guys think. I'm going to wrap this up. I believe I pretty much covered everything that I wanted to cover. Good luck out there, guys. I hope everything's going good for you. I hope that you find value in this. If you do, please, support the channel by liking, subscribing, doing all the things to feed the YouTube algo. It's much appreciated. And we'll talk to you soon.